Welcome back to Solas Festival's podcast series. I'm your host, Louise Mason, a radio presenter, music journalist, and producer. Solas Festival is a celebration of music, arts, and ideas, and it's going to be taking place between the 14th to the 16th of June in Perthshire, in Errol Park, in lovely Scotland. And ahead of that, I am going to be talking to a few of the artists and contributors just to give you a bit of an idea as to what you can expect. Today, your guest is Alistair Braidwood. Alistair runs the website Scots Wehey, as well as hosting the accompanying podcast where he talks to some of the most interesting names in Scottish culture and the arts. He also fronts the SWH show on Camglen Radio, does reviews and interviews for a number of literature and cultural publications, MCs events and festivals, and has been published in a number of academic journals as well. Alistair has been organising the literature side of Solas Festival, lining up writers, and is here to tell us more. Hello, Alistair.
Hello, Louise.
How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for inviting me on.
Of course, yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing about these wonderful writers you've got lined up. But before we get into who you've been booking, what is your favourite thing about working at festivals? You obviously do lots of different things, but festivals.
Well, the thing about festivals is they're so eclectic. So I feel, if you're going to just one event or something like that, you're kind of stuck there. With festivals, I feel the chance to maybe discover something completely new. You can hear something being played from a field or a tent and it intrigues you, and you go in and you might discover a band that, becomes one of your favourites. Similarly, I'm not quite the same with book festivals, but similarly, I was at the Paisley Book Festival recently working, and a lot of their events were pay what you can. So there was the opportunity again to kind of discover writers, particularly I think local writers that people might not have otherwise. So there's that chance of discovery and that kind of excitement, I think, as to the unknown, which you maybe don't get with other events.
Yeah. And I suppose if you're curating something, you've mentioned there are so many different people and so many amazing writers in Scotland. How do you start about thinking who is right for a festival and who you want to put on a lineup?
Well, I basically came up with a kind of long list that was kind of perfect in my head. And I was thinking, well, who could fit in this predominantly music festival? And that was kind of at the front as well. And then, we've got wider themes going on with the festival. But I thought that was the place for me to start to kind of get in touch with some of the writers who, one's non-fiction and one's fiction, but both have written extensively about music.
Yeah. And so this year you booked Katrina Child and Graham Thompson. Very excited to speak a bit more about them. I've been looking up more about their work. But let's start with Katrina, whose novel Fade Into You came out last year. What can you tell us? Amazing. Got it right there. Brilliant promo. She's paid you well. What can you tell us about her work and why you think the audiences at festivals will be particularly interested?
Well, Katrina is, I think, the author of 4 novels, and the very first one, debut, was called Trackman. And again, the premise of that was I think it slightly dates now because it's about having an iPod that's kind of sentient and, working with you. But the idea behind it is perfect, that someone's going through a particularly hard time in their life. Life isn't turning out as they thought it would be. And the music that Trackman, the iPod, kind of offers them up at the time, seems to really help them get through. And she's returned to that kind of idea a bit in Fade Into You. Fade Into You, I should say, is named after the Mazzy Star song of the same name. Yeah. And it's packed full of music references. It really is. It's got its own playlist. There's often like kind of 5 songs that get mentioned each time. It's got scenes at festivals, which is, fantastic. Tea in the Park in particular. So I know, having spoken to Katrina in the past, just how much music means to her. She's a huge Travis fan, I should say. We've had lots of chats about that, and they feature in the book as well. But really, it's about how music can connect people, but also heal as well, as times change and people change and circumstances change. but often how those initial kind of connections that are made can remain strong, even if they kind of ebb and flow as time passes.
Yeah. I love that idea because it is so very true. And as you say, the nostalgia trip of going to festivals in the 90s, etc. When you speak to her, do you think she will be able to bring up some of her own memories of those times? Or will you also be able to share some of yours?
Well, I'm not sure I can remember much about mine, but I think she can. I'm sure she will. She clearly has taken from her own life, I think, for the
Yeah.
book. Maybe I'm to a greater or lesser degree, but yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that. And it is nostalgic for me as well. It's a time where, the music that she uses seems to me to be really accurate. She hasn't just looked through her record collection or playlists and gone, I'll have that, that, that. Each song seems to be really carefully considered and chosen for the
Yeah.
kind of effect it will have on the reader and the kind of time and place it'll take them to as well.
And what is kind of the plot narrative of the book? I know obviously you touched on it being about friendships and the ebb and flow and how things change, but yeah, could you tell us a bit more about the kind of plot to it?
So yeah, it's about a young woman when she's still school age, and she meets these now they're twins. I'm pretty sure they're twins, and they become like kind of bosom buddies, and share early memories with each other, and the kind of things that you do at that age that maybe you might go on to regret. Who knows? But they're kind of they shape people's characters and shape people's lives to come, and as everyone's life progresses, you know, things don't go well for them all. In fact, all of them have their challenges, but some particularly more than others. And yeah, I really don't want to give anything away, but um, as we go latterly, music becomes increasingly important in a way which I think is unexpected. But it's a
Okay.
joyous thing, soundtracking young lives at the beginning, and then it's used almost as a reflect to reconnect through
Mhm.
time and to remember the people you were at the beginning and the kind of friendships you shared and the joy you had when sometimes that's difficult to remember if things aren't going as well as you might have thought.
Yeah, I think as well, having the playlist with it, maybe people can look that up. Fade into you, the playlist that goes with the book by Katrina Child before seeing her at Solace, because yeah, it'll reignite those memories and maybe help with the conversation. But you mentioned there about themes as well, and Solas Festival has got the theme of human touch this year. How does that kind of work into Katrina's work?
Well, I think it works into all of our work is about relationships in a sense, and how coming together will always be better than trying to do it on your own, even if you can't see. You maybe think I can get through this on my own. I think Katrina shows in her writing that it's better a problem shared, put it that way, and a problem, even if it's just talking to someone or all of those things that sometimes we find really difficult to do. Yeah, because there's darkness in all of our books, and there
Yeah.
is in Fade Into You as well. It's not just didn't we have a lovely time at Tea in the Park? I mean, it really goes to some really dark places. But I was thinking about human touch as well, and how I found particularly after COVID and things that going to festivals and just going to events, being in the room with other people has just seemed so vitally important. And that human touch, that human connection, and we just realize now how important it was and what we were missing when we couldn't do
Yeah.
that. I don't think we would ever, certainly personally, we would ever take it for granted. And I think the human aspect of Fade Into You in particular is about that human touch, the human connection that is very important, which is vital, I think.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Well, I look forward to hearing yeah, more from her. But Graham Thompson is the second person. He has done a very impressive amount of writing about
Yes, indeed.
music in books and publications. What can you tell us about him as a writer?
Well, I've known Graham's writing for a long time. I was used to when magazines were still huge. I still buy the odd one, but I used to buy a lot of them. And Graham
Yeah.
was often a writer that I turned to in things like Uncut. Even he still writes for The Guardian and Spectator. You know,
Yeah.
he's really widely published as a journalist. But last year, might have been the year before, he brought out Themes for Great Cities, which I've got here, which is a new history of Simple Minds, about the early years of Simple Minds, who are one of my favourite bands, one of my kind of defining bands, particularly the early era before they got huge and hit stadiums, which is what this is about. So, and then I got on to reading his book about John Martin, which is called
Yeah.
Small Hours, which I'm reading at the moment. And it's one of these books that makes you want to listen to the music that you're. And I knew John Martin a little bit, but I wasn't a fan in the same way I was of Simple Minds. You know, I kind of had everything by
Right.
Simple Minds. John Martin had the kind of greatest hits, Solid Air, and you know the kind of bigger albums. But this makes you go and listen to the music that Graham's talking about. It's and I think that's a really special thing for a music writer to be able to do. So I'm a big fan of him as a writer as well as the work he covers. He's got Under the Ivy, which is his book on Kate Bush. Another huge fan of Kate Bush, who isn't? And Behind the Locked Door, which is about George Harrison, and he's written many others as well. So this is a guy absolutely steeped in music. And I initially thought, well, who better to talk to? You know, if there's people thinking, well, I don't know if that book event's for me. If music's your thing, then, you know, you're going to learn more about some of your favourite bands and musicians. Because apart from the ones he's written books about, he's interviewed, you know, too many others to name here, you know?
Yeah, because I saw that he, you know, has done, as you say, works for Guardian, done things for Rolling Stone, amazing publications. And yes, Elvis Costello, Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash are amongst other ones that his biographies are about. So clearly he's going to have lots of stories. And I wonder how he's going to retain it all in there. Sometimes it's a lot to take in, isn't it? But in terms of your favorite when trying to pick, you know, music to talk about, artists to talk about, how do you approach that in your research when you're thinking, okay, this is someone that I really want to learn more about? How do you approach that?
Well, my big concern with Graham in particular is how we're going to squeeze it all into the time.
Yes,
Because I have had him on the podcast just to speak about the Simple Minds book, and that was about a good 50-minute chat. So I guess I'm going to have to slim lots of things down, but I think I'd like to learn more about him as much as the artists. And I'm sure he'll have some great stories because every music journalist I've ever met has kind of great stories about it. So I think that might be a place to start rather than trying to cram in all the books. It's his relationship with music and how he got to write all these amazing books, and we'll talk a bit about, you know, the bands and the musicians as well. I can't wait to talk to him about Kate Bush because I'm a mega fan of hers too.
Yeah, no, that'll be amazing. And as you say, what a great person to book, because he's got so much knowledge and something for everyone there. Will it be a kind of discussion and a Q&A? Will people get the chance to ask questions if they want to?
When I do these events, I always try and make time for Q&A from the audience. I think that's only fair, you know, that people are kind of, they might have something that's really burning. They might even bring it with them. You know, they've been thinking about this for a while. So I think it's only fair to open that up. So there will definitely be a Q&A, the chance for people to talk to both these writers.
Okay, great. And who else are you looking forward to this year at Solas Festival?
So many. Before I get into the music, because it's an incredible lineup of music, I have to say, I want to say that I'm really excited that Professor John Curtis is going to be appearing, who's a kind of political legend. Anyone who's ever stayed up to watch the results come in from an election will know John Curtis. So that's exciting to see he's involved. But in terms of the music, you've got Tom Maguire and the Brass Holes. I mean, I've spoken to Tom for the radio show. What a live band they are. If anyone's never seen them before, you're really going to have your socks knocked off.
I should also say that we've interviewed him on this, so you can go and watch that video too if you haven't done yet.
Oh, fantastic. I will definitely do that, yeah. And Dancer Dub were a band I didn't really know until just recently, but then we discussed them on another music podcast that I was involved in. We're talking about new music. and one of their tracks was played, and wow, I cannot wait to see them live. It sounds really special.
Yeah, there's some fantastic music guests that they've got coming along. The talent in Scotland always blows me away, I have to say.
Well, another few just to mention, Brisha Heimble, what an incredible talent as a musician. Tara Kin, I just saw recently at my local venue, the Glad Cafe, and that's an artist with a big future.
Yes, definitely.
Two of my favourite musicians, Hamish Napier and Jenny Sturgeon. Whenever they play live, if I'm nearby, I'll try and see them. And actually, Jenny's been a really strong supporter of Scots Whay kind of right from the beginning, so it'll be good to catch up with Jenny hopefully as well. But you know, newer musicians to me that are just in the last year, 12 months, Pippa Blundell is stunning. I mean, her sister's EP is absolutely sensational. If you don't know it, check it out. Evie Waddell and Grayling as well, two other amazing artists to emerge in the last, I'd say 12 months, maybe even less than that. Grayling's Cardinal Fire EP is coming out end of this month and is amazing. And Evie Waddell's single Clwch, I think is the way it's pronounced, is sensational as well. Just doing really new things with what people might think is traditional music, particularly Evie, I guess, in traditional music, but really, you know, bringing in other types of music and crossing genres and just doing things which are really kind of unusual, but really exciting.
Yeah, wow, you've gone through so many there. That's
I could go for
fantastic.
more, but I felt a better hold off.
A full roundup, yeah. And how about things like I know there's going to be some political discussions. There's also yoga. Are you in for a bit of yoga?
Oh, it's been a while. It's been a while. But in all seriousness, it's great to have something which offers something for absolutely everyone. So if you want to have it's like you were saying at the very beginning, you know, about festivals and what makes them special. You can go and find a quiet corner, should you wish. You can go and get away from it all. You know, there is the opportunity to do that. You don't just have to be front and center at the main stage and that's you for 3 days or whatever. You get to move around. You get to try different foods, perhaps. You know, there's all sorts of aspects of a really great festival, and this is shaping up to be a really great festival, I think.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm sure I could talk to you forever, but yeah, it'll be fantastic to see you down there with Katrina Child and Graham Thompson. Sounds fascinating. And tickets are on sale now for anyone listening via the link in the show notes below. So make sure you grab those, head along to see the writers and Alistair talking. And as you just mentioned there's going to be loads of music, funk and soul, folk and indie, traditional Scottish music, Celtic sounds, anything you can think of, really. You can look at the full lineup on the website, which is also linked below in the show notes. And as we mentioned, there's plenty of other things going on, so do subscribe to the channel as well to hear from the headliner Tom Maguire, as I mentioned there, Tom Maguire and the Brassholes. And Pippa Blundell is also on, and we spoke about her sister's EP and what she has as like a rider, what she wants at festivals to help her prepare. So yeah, go and check that out if you haven't done yet. But thank you so much, Alistair, for joining me today.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for asking me.
Of course. See you there.